I'm really pleased to have Ben Escobedo from Shure with us today. And Ben has got a wide-ranging series of thoughts and microphones and applications, and we should learn something today. Ben?
Thanks, Barry. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And it's always fun to talk microphones and geek out and all that kind of thing. And as we mentioned previously before the call started, if you have something you want to talk about, let me know. We can go down that direction. I have a couple things in mind that I'd like to share with you in case you haven't seen them before and so forth. As far as myself, just quickly, I'm in market development. So I'm not really a sales guy, it's kind of like a sales guy without the quota. So to me, I just want you to understand the product and, see the different applications. And for me, one of the cool things at Shure is just being able to talk to the end user, see how they're using our product. Oftentimes it's ways that we've never intended that become mainstream, which is great. Or maybe it's something you'd like to see in the next version. And I'm fortunate enough that I know the people to talk to and have seen those things be put in action. So it's really, it's good to be part of the mechanism and just give the people what they want. And that's what we're all about. So with that being said, yeah, feel free to pop in if you have a question or something that you like to discuss. But there's so much going on in the Shure world, especially Pro right now. And we have our Axiom Digital flagship wireless system. We have some accessories for broadcast, including the new VPH handheld. The latest addition to the Axiom Digital portfolio is our 2-channel high-end flagship portable receiver, which I have here, the ADX5D for slot-in cameras, and also mixers like Aton and sound devices if you're into that type of thing. But anyway, we talked a little bit about the call, before the call, and to kick it off, just kind of like a little bit of from the streaming side of things. And I still get quite a few calls from broadcasters looking for easy ways to get audio from talent who may not have a full setup at their house or even know what a record button looks like, etc. So some of the things like that, what I'm using right now for this call is the MV7, which is our USB dynamic microphone modeled after the SM7B, but of course you don't need an interface. It's got everything built in. DSP-based software works Mac PC or your iPhone, of course. So we see that you just kind of plug it in and either USB to Lightning or USB to USB, of course. And I like it because I can store it on my desk and I get good sound quality even from an arm's length away. Or if you want to speak right into it, you can as well. I've got an SM7B, of course. I just, one less interface to use on the table and setting gains and things of that nature. I just turn it on and it works, of course. And also we're using the Zoom built-in DSP to avoid echo cancellation and such. So I don't have to wear headphones. I could, of course, but I don't have to. And then the other one, like we mentioned, like LiveView and other programs for people trying to get good quality audio from end users or something during this time where you can just send out to them and they can turn it on, would be the MV88 Plus, this little microphone here, which is USB, micro USB with a headphone out built in. And it's really kind of a modular system. When you get it, you get the Manfrotto Pixie stand, a little roll-up bag, reminiscent of like a tool bag from tools and wrenches. But it comes with a bunch of accessories where you can like clip it onto your phone and a windscreen and a cold shoe mount and all that kind of stuff. And you can take video with it using your iPhone built-in app or the Motive app, or record or use it as live streaming, of course. And the sound quality is very, very good for a stereo microphone being modular. So we've definitely seen some of this being used in all type of morning shows and professional broadcast applications, or just for podcasting or live streaming, etc. This has been a winner. We've had the MV88, the original version, which was silver, a little bit smaller, didn't have all the accessories and such. And the new version just takes it to the next level with the extra DSP and more ease of use, apps available for tweaking, like one of those real easy apps you can say, am I using it for music or speech or, live or, far, near, all that kind of thing, adjust the stereo spread and so forth. So that's been kind of exciting for us. And as you can imagine, we've been very busy with that type of thing, when everybody is doing broadcasting from home and web calls and trying to catch people from their own home broadcasting into a live broadcast show, etc. That's been very cool. Another thing too I wanted to show or mention is we have this thing called the VPH, and it's kind of I don't know if you've seen this, but it's a novel concept. So as of Shure, I'm sure you all realize that we have our wireless microphone capsules. We call them the RPW series, and this is a KSM8 dual dyne dynamic capsule, but SM58, whatever the flavor may be. But what if I could take my wireless capsule assortment I use in the broadcast studio and make it wired? I usually have to buy the wired version of the microphone, 58 or KSM8, hardwired and such. But we came out with this guy called the VPH, or Video Production Handheld, and this one here has an XLR in the bottom, no frills, no controls, and a RPW style Shure thread at the top. So you can take your wireless capsules and make them wired just by screwing them in. This is a nice little piece for the broadcaster, especially if you need an assortment of different capsules on the road, or make a video, production, etc. You can screw them together like Legos, and now I have a KSM8 wired. The only stipulation is that you need to give it phantom power for the active electronics inside of here. But other than that, it's ready to go. The other cool thing is that because it does use all the Shure accessories in the same thread capsule, we do have, I'm sorry I don't have one, but the WA653 mic flag extender. My colleague Bill Ostry helped bring this to fruition at Shure. And it's basically a Colette series of extensions or tubular extensions that can make your mic as long or as short as you want. And, to solve the age-old problem when you're out and you have a mic flag or a halo station ID and somebody with really big hands and they put their hand on the mic and now it's like cupping the microphone, or they're like holding it by the bottom, etc. You can stack the 653 and make the capsule extend as far out as you wish. They come in 2 different lengths in the package, and again, you can link as many as you want together. It's one of those like little things that we really had to convince management that this is something needed for the broadcast market. Obviously, there are broadcast handhelds out there that are long, that do have room for a mic flag, if you will. But the mic flag extender kit, especially if you already have Shure wireless, is just a no-brainer. It goes right in line, and it kind of solves that age-old problem of too much or too little hand on the microphone during a broadcast. So yeah, really cool. These are kind of like problem solver stuff, and different ways to solve little issues that you may have seen or may not have seen before. So thanks, Barry. There you go. So the WA653 there on our website, you get it in the package. You get 2 different lengths, and I think one is 1.5 and the other one is 2.5 or something. Again, you can link multiple of these together, or just one, or both, whatever you like, and they fit all of the Shure wireless portfolio. If it takes a Shure capsule, this is the way to go. And again, it's like a little thing, but kind of an oversight, but why didn't anybody think of this before? And we do have it. And I think if you have Shure mics, you probably appreciate this if you're using a flag. So yeah, that's pretty cool. What else is going on? We've had a lot of let's see, we talk about array microphones for a little bit. We've had a lot of cross-pollination with the array microphone business, and if you're familiar with our 910 MXA series, the Shure Microflex Advanced, we have array microphones that typically are found in office buildings and over conference tables and things of that nature. And we started with like little kind of square ones that go in the ceiling, and to pick up different lobes, and you can steer the lobes around, and it's great for a conference environment because nobody sees the microphone. There's no microphones of it out there. We have other ones like the MXA 310, the little tabletop, and again, has 4 different lobes that you can steer around. Most recently, we've come out with the MXA 710, and this is more like a sound bar. If you picture a sound bar under a television, they come in a 2-foot and a 4-foot lengths, and these are available to be steered in kind of a half hemisphere pattern, and you can put them on the wall. Again, the general public's none the wiser. They think it looks like a speaker of some sort or a sound bar, and these have been cool, and they work great for their intended purposes. In fact, we're kind of a market leader in that segment, and it's been great for sure for the system side. But of course, we're in the pro side, we're in the broadcast, the microphone, the live production, etc. And that's my world, at least, that I live in, and I have colleagues on the other side of the fence. But we do have some cross-pollination, which has been really cool. Using these microphones, or array microphones, in unique and different ways for pro broadcasts, especially. So I talked about this a little bit, I think, at one of the DTV summits, a couple years back, before, when we were allowed to travel extensively, of course. And anyway, I wanted to kind of share this with you in case you haven't seen it, to kind of give you some ideas of thinking outside the box and as I mentioned earlier, we make the product, but how the end user actually uses it is just up to them. And it's kind of refreshing to see this kind of stuff. So these can be problem solvers or solutions, if you will. Let me share this. I'll try to share this here. There we go. Kind of give you some decks here. And slideshow. Okay. Okay, so can you see this the slide here?
Yes.
Okay, great. MXA 910, standard kind of 24-inch ceiling tile size, kind of that deal. Typically used for installed sound applications, systems applications. As I mentioned previously, the microphone is powered and has everything over Dante for an audio output. You have up to 8 different lobes. There's a built-in auto mixer. The current generation of this has built-in DSP, so it can also do a lot of advanced DSP processing and simplify your output out of one Ethernet cable. The other beauty of it is that that one Ethernet cable is everything. It's the umbilical. It carries Dante, control, as well as PoE, so power over Ethernet to light it up, and you don't have to run 4 or 5 different cables. So really cool. Plug it in, PoE powered switch, and then it turns on. Available in a variety of different colors, of course, but there are different applications where we can suspend it from the ceiling using kind of guy wires or cables. We have a kind of a flush mount deal, as well as if you want a pedestal mount from many of the manufacturers who do, projectors or et cetera. We have our kind of pedestal mounts there. But I already talked about this, kind of all the features and benefits of it. It's like 8 different microphones, and, you don't have to use every lobe if you want, but typically how it was designed was to be put over a conference table. And then when you're setting up the room, the engineer would steer each lobe to kind of fit a certain position. And you can have multiple presets in case it's a expandable room, or you want to tie it in with a Crestron or AMX or some other DSP platform, room control platform, et cetera. And that's that kind of world that it normally would be found in or live in any of the various office buildings in Manhattan or any major city and so forth. So the next step would be this speaker kind of soundbar looking microphone, which is the 710 and available in the 2 and the 4 foot. This one, again, is very unobtrusive. You can mount it under a television. It uses like a toroidal pattern, so it kind of looks like a half of a donut.
Excuse me, Ben.
Yeah.
You may be looking on the wrong screen here, because we're still on your first slide.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me see. Yeah, it says sharing is paused. Bring your shared window to the front. Let's see.
Here, let me stop the sharing and now try it again. Pick the one that you want.
Okay, let's try it again. Sorry about that. Thank you for letting me know. Let's see.
Bingo. Okay,
cool. So sorry about that. You missed some of the, well, there wasn't that much exciting there, but the 710, I wanted to show you this, how it looks like a sound bar, right?
Great.
So unobtrusive, half of a donut toroidal pattern I was mentioning. You can't really control the height of the pattern because it's like about 180 degrees of like a donut or toroidal shape, but you can control the lobes, and you can either have it automatically position the lobes for you, or like slices of that toroid, you can steer them around via software, and then the system remembers it. So you also can do it for like portable or sports applications. I would say like on the sidelines of a game or a field, maybe on the side of a boxing arena, et cetera. And you can put them onto some sort of speaker stand or mic stand mount, if you will, and or hide it into a surface if that kind of suits your fancy and so forth. But again, this is kind of a little bit of a cross-pollination from the system side into the pro world where we all live, of course. The 910 has steerable patterns or steerable lobes, of course, and it's very similar to like a flashlight beam. The farther you're away from the source, the lobe gets larger. You can move them around via software and tune them. Typically, there is an automatic positioning feature, but typically one would use some headphones and listen to the Dante stream to make sure that you're focusing that beam appropriately. Because it has 8 different lobes doesn't mean you have to use all 8. A lot of times users will use less because the coverage is sufficient with 4 or 5 or 6 and so forth. And of course, it's all tied into, like I mentioned earlier, the Crestron or AMX and control protocol over, TCP, IP, UDP commands, et cetera. And you can recall all those settings and so forth. But here's a classic example. You've got a boardroom with 8 chairs and you put a lobe over each person, and it can do, intelligent kind of like switching and auto mixing, or you can delegate that to an offboard USB, other appliance, or even, an SCM 820 or something like that. But anyway, this is how it would look in the software when you're designing it. And you can import things into the software to kind of steer those lobes around and make it applicable for that specific scene or that application. Most of the time, these would be static in the location, and they don't move. You're not going to go up in the ceiling and move it. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But this is the classic boardroom approach. But in the hybrid approach here, when we're kind of merging into broadcast, here's one here at the PNC Center for the Bears, of course, and the Bears. And basically, after the game, you want to talk about, hey, how did we do out there in the field today? And gave it all we got, and this and that. And we have microphones in front of the main participants of the conference, but you normally don't have the reporters being mic'd up appropriately in various forms. And, maybe you throw up an area mic or a couple shotguns or something to capture that question instead of hearing like dead air. And then you hear like a really loud broadcast ready voice from the close microphones up on the table. To solve this problem, we're using MXA 910s, and 910s hidden in the ceiling here. Looks like a ceiling vent. You could disable the LED and nobody would even really know because they were looking for the little Shure logo, and extremely discreet. Very nice, and you can kind of steer those lobes. And in this case, you'd be focusing them away from the podium and more towards the reporter area where they would be asking questions and so forth. So this is really cool and solves like a very common problem, I would say, in just about every major sporting arena or after every major game. And whether it's baseball, hockey, football, rugby, whatever. This kind of solves that issue in kind of a new and exciting way. Again, taking those technologies that we developed mainly with the conference in mind into pro broadcast. So I'm excited about this. There's also more crossover. The next thing I will show you is really cool and kind of solves another problem for live reinforcement. So hockey and basketball in the Scotiabank Arena up in Toronto. I believe they just started resuming. I saw some ads, I think, on LinkedIn or something about they're looking for personnel. But anyway, they do both NBA and NHL there, and they can often overlap and do them in the same week. So the main problem with the current setup is how to get court sounds from the court. And we also have, not to go way off on that tangent, but we also offer the super tiny like Q5X transmitters that get sewn into the jerseys and such. And we do have those now for Axient Digital, which is great. But barring all of that, how are you going to capture the court sounds? The squeak of the basketball sneaker and get that on the broadcast, or the slapping of the puck and the skates on the ice and all that type of thing. And historically, what they would do is they would have a bunch of shotgun microphones installed in the middle of the arena, way up high. And before every game, somebody would have to go up on a lift and tweak those microphones out to capture the sounds of wherever you're going to be pointing it, because it's going to be different from basketball into hockey. The nets and the goals are in different locations, and you may have different number of microphones and so forth. And this is a huge hassle because you have to get a lift out there, the qualified personnel, go way up in the middle of the scoreboard in the arena, tweak it out, and make sure you're in the exact repeatable position as you had the week prior to get the best sounds and so forth. So what they've ended up doing is actually deploying MXA 910, or the square ceiling array microphone, with great results. And they've replaced the shotguns there with a pair of them. So each MXA 910 has, what I mentioned earlier, 8 lobes. So they have up to 16 lobes that they can position around the court to capture whatever they're trying to capture for that. So, this was kind of a litmus test to begin with. They're like, I'm not sure if this is going to work. This is kind of an unusual application. But, if it does work, it'll save us time, money, and frustration, plus give us more repeatable broadcast-ready results. So they ended up doing this, and they found out it actually worked better reducing the unwanted noise or ambient noise versus a shotgun. They had better results that way. And what I thought was really, really cool is that they can recall these presets via DSP. So it's kind of like a push a button and it just does its thing. So the sound used for both internally and broadcast externally, these are the same arena sounds being piped into both and responsible for both. So it's kind of a high priority. Without this type of feedback or this type of sounds, you're not really going to get the immersive part of the game. It's all going to be farther away and you're not going to hear all that action on the ice or on the court exactly. So just kind of a quick snapshot here. This is kind of one of the setups where they're using the two different microphones in the scoreboard to cover the entire basketball court. So as I mentioned previously, because you have all of the lobes, up to 16 in this case, 8 times 2, doesn't mean you necessarily have to use them all. You can use just a portion of them. And here we're using for basketball just 8. And so 4 on each. And then of course they go back to Dante, and it's on a preset here with an awesome graphic showing the lobe coverage and getting very adequate court coverage for an NBA game. But when it comes time for Canada's favorite pastime, hockey, of course, would look a little something like this. And you would have an entire arena covered with all up to 16 lobes in the whole court. And this is just amazing. So the operator can use this with their DSP. I believe it might be a London BSS or something. And they just hit a button, recalls all the presets, the microphone's lobes go to where they should be, and you're done. And that problem of getting the required personnel on the lift and adjusting the microphones and bringing them out and make sure everything's working okay, it's all gone. And all that headache is gone. And then go back and forth from hockey to basketball all day long, and with repeatable broadcast ready results. So just kind of throwing this out there. I use this case just to show, the cool ways that you can use an array microphone and maybe solve an issue that you may have where it's not appropriate to mic somebody up, or maybe you can't mic somebody up. We've had some reality television shows where inside of a prison, or maybe on the backstage of a locker room, where it's just not practical or feasible to put a wireless pack in a lab on somebody, where these microphones work awesome for that, because you can put them up, you have control for the steerable lobes and whatnot, and you're good to go. So really, really, really cool. I got a couple questions here in the chat. Let's see. Ted asks, can you pan to follow with the lobes? It's not really, you could set different presets to steer those lobes around and so forth, but as of right now, they're like a static thing. Once you set them, it's pretty much static, unless you're using the automatic setting, which can pick up on certain things. There's a roving lobe technology where it kind of goes around, and it can, and this is not, unique to array microphones in general, where it can actually follow certain sounds around, which may or may not be desirable depending on the application. For example, if you're in a conference room and the automatic the lobe thing is going, it's great. You're picking up whoever's talking, but what if somebody outside, there's a fire engine or something, I could pick up to that, or a crinkling of a bag or something like that, or potato chips on the table, maybe that goes to that. We've just released new DSP software, not to get way off the rails here, but that runs on a PC, like a Nook, and it turns that into a high-powered DSP powerhouse. And there is some intelligence built in there, which can kind of discern the differences between the type of audio that's coming through, and then make decisions on if it should latch onto that or not, or discard it, et cetera. Typing on a keyboard, putting your hand into a chip bag and making noise like that, and so forth. So we're working on new and exciting stuff like that. Also, is anyone using this in a theater stage setting to pick up audio during a play or presentation? There has been some experimentation. I can't say of any things right now that are just like really, kind of like the way to pick it up, but it can solve some of those issues with getting sounds from the stage, or there's also been experimentation in the use of using it in a live setting to get ambient noise from the crowd. So if you're wearing in-ear monitors and you're kind of in a isolated cocoon and you want to hear the people clapping when they're clapping after your show or in between songs, like this can be used as kind of an ambient mic, and a really cool one at that, because you know, it's not unlike a shotgun where it's just like one static area. You can steer this around and make it wider, make it lower, concentrate in the front or the back. You're not just getting that person right in front of the mic, you know, screaming yay or whatever. So yeah, there are applications for all of the above. The sky's the limit, really. And it's one of those things that's really nice to experiment with, because it kicks the microphone, one Ethernet cable, and your computer, and you can just make changes on the fly. So really, really cool. Let's see. Or in a radio or TV studio to replace labs for a roundtable discussion type show. Yes, we have seen some applications with that, using it to replace lavaliers. You know, physics still applies, so the closer you get the microphone to the sound source, the better off you are. But there may be times where it's not appropriate or feasible to put transmitters on people or get them back, especially during these times of COVID and whatnot. So yeah, we have seen that as well. It's really up to you what you want to do with it, and the sound quality is remarkably good, and the control is just awesome. Like, click on the mouse and you steer it around where you want to be. So going back, just to kind of pivot back a little bit, we were talking earlier about the VPH handheld. Jerry had a question which I missed. Sorry, Jerry. When the hardwire adapter is installed, does that turn off the wireless transmitter? Well, yeah, the hardwire adapter is just for the capsule itself. So we were basically just using your wireless transmitter capsules to to make them wired, if you will. I think hopefully I understood the question appropriately. So let me know if I didn't. So, yeah, this is some cool stuff for the old Lobe there, the old MXA, and just new and exciting things. You know, speaking of which, you know, we always I kind of opened up the conversation with, you know, using equipment in unorthodox ways that we never intended. And one is like, we've really been getting into the location sound, film, episodic, ENG broadcast recently, mostly due to the buzz around not only just Axiom Digital, but our new ADX5D slot-in portable receiver, which is kind of a new thing for us. We've had the Shure UR series of yesteryear, the analog tool channel wireless and whatnot, but this is the first kind of digital wireless that we've offered for pro camera or, you know, bag sound devices, ATON type of deal. But rolling it back a little ways, even a couple years ago, our Axiom Digital portfolio, we offer a dual and a quad channel rack mount receiver, and those are kind of been the staple of the system for, you know, since it came out in 2017. And you may have some in your studio or your broadcast facility. We've been doing really well with it. The adoption has been very good from all the feature, cost, and sound quality, et cetera. But anyway, we offer a version of that has a redundant power supply. So some broadcast facilities, possibly yours, have the option of AC and maybe a DC leg in case one side goes down, the broadcast goes on. Major facilities, you know, here in the New York area, do offer that, and you know, for maximum 99.9999 uptime or whatever, right? But we've actually had some really prominent sound mixers that record sound on film and set and et cetera, that have been using these in that capacity because they have the DC powering option. So on the back of these units, you have an AC and a DC, like a 4-pin XLR to light them up. They were like, well, my sound cart that I bring onto the film set uses DC, and I have the option to use AC, but everything is mainly powered by 12-volt DC or in that neighborhood. And what if I just use your Axiom Digital system on the DC power all the time and not even use the AC? Okay, sure. So even before this portable product came out, they're starting to use this on major films and things like In the Heights and, you know, kind of like Steven Spielberg's #1 sound guy. And these, like, we're talking A-listers here, you know, who can choose anything they want, are using Axiom Digital. And we're like, mind blown. I never even thought that was a thing. And they're out in the field using this technology in our small, like, micro body packs, which have been really well received. No antenna, you know, smooth corners. They don't get hot. They're made out of polymer, things of that nature, and just been taken off to the ground running. In fact, the movie Mank just got nominated for an award, and that was recorded on Axiom Digital, and many other shows as well. They've been kind of adopting it, but lately here at Shure, we've been really excited because we've taken that technology, all of that Axiom Digital full rack size unit, and we shrunk it down into this little guy here. And why this is mind blowing is that not only is it digital, and offers all the features and benefits of Axiom Digital is that it has built-in remote control. Axiom Digital does have the ability to remote control your transmitters. And again, during this time, it's really important, once you put the pack on somebody, that you don't want to have to go back and grab it from them or make adjustments. Excuse me, miss, can I get that pack that's like buried in the middle of your backpack? And no, so the ShoreLink remote control technology allows that to happen. It also is a time saver if you need to change frequencies, or using advanced technology, like if you get interfered with, you can change frequencies on the fly automatically or manually. Some of the other advantages of the system, if you're not aware, is that there's no more gain settings on the pack. Normally on a traditional wireless, you have to adjust the gain or the sensitivity. This has a super high quality front end with a wide dynamic envelope, and it's auto ranging. It doesn't need to be adjusted. So you put a lab onto it, you put it on the talent, and you're done, and you can walk away. There's really not anything you have to do on the pack side of things. And you can, if you do need to change something, you can do it either from the system itself, the front panel, or with Wireless Workbench or control software or our iPad app. We have all that stuff, of course. But yeah,
I'll
please.
ask a question that I think is germane to this product and in general. The FCC has been messing around with frequencies for wireless mics over the past few years.
Yes.
And some of us have equipment that is now obsolete frequency-wise. And where do things stand from Shure's viewpoint as to the, I noticed you mentioned that your unit's frequency agile. So what makes this product resilient to whatever the FCC does, and what do users need to know?
A great question, Barry. So we were very fortunate that when this product was released in 2017, which is right around the time of the latest transition here in the USA. So I think every broadcaster here has been affected by it, mandated either had to change channels, or at least it affected them in some way. Maybe like Barry mentioned, you'd have to, change your gear out to be in the legal frequency. But as of right now, the UHF band, which is of course the most desirable for bang for the buck for distance and that sort of stuff, with a manageable antenna length, the Axiom Digital can take advantage of all of what's usable in the US up to 616 megahertz. So from 470 up to the radio astronomy band, 608 is a contiguous amount of spectrum shared with public safety and TV, and we can use all of that. And Axiom Digital, this A-range unit, which we sell in the US, is completely capable. It also takes advantage of, like, there's a little slice of a guard band or a gap between 614 and 616, which we can use as wireless users with some restrictions. You can have to use lower output power up to 10 milliwatt and so forth. And this one unit, like this is an A range, or if you get the full size Axiom Digital, that would be the one that most users go for, because it covers the gamut. It covers everything, and you don't have to worry about different blocks or frequency ranges. It just does them all. We also have some other ranges too that may be of interest. As broadcasters here, you probably licensed, of course, so you can take advantage of the STL band from 941 through 960. There are some segments that are restricted in different chunks of that, but 941 through 960 is extremely attractive because, well, it's exclusive. You have to be licensed to use it. You're either a broadcaster that's licensed, or you own a Part 74 license from the FCC. And somebody can't just go to their local guitar shop and buy one of these in the STL band without the license. So we've been seeing a lot of users kind of dip their toe into this STL band stuff because of the exclusivity of it. And also, if you're trying to do some sort of production, especially externally, that it's been tough to find frequencies after the repack. The last range we have is in the mid 600s, and there is a duplex gap between the uplink and the downlink of the new cellular landscape and the 600 meg. And we do offer a range that is in there that can take advantage of it, but that was kind of a like a last choice. Those 600 megahertz frequencies here in the US, you're only going to get a little bit of that swath in between the uplink and the downlink. So it's not as popular as our A range, which is down low. So, I mean, kind of a roundabout way, the main thing, if you get an A range Axiom Digital, it can do all of the legal frequencies up to 616. And then we do offer other ranges, which can take advantage of that STL and 600 meg.
Question?
Yes.
So looks like all the activity here in development has been on the DSP side. Anything new in transducers? And are transducers largely electret, dynamic, and perhaps MEMS?
Correct. Yeah. So we're always working on new and exciting stuff. We do have some electric condensers, and we do have some MEMS microphones. We also have some new technology. I'll just go with the newest stuff that's out there. The KSM-8 is a dynamic, but it's a new kind of hybrid dual diaphragm dynamic with unique properties. And this has been extremely popular for not only live, like singing and stuff, but also the spoken word and doing broadcast as a great all-around capsule with extremely high fidelity. That's been really nice. We have been doing some MEMS technology for some of our lavalier microphones as well. Which have been kind of on the forefront. We're never stopping developing new things and using MEMS, as you mentioned, for those type of applications. Those would be kind of in our mid-tier lavalier line, which we call Duraplex, which is kind of a waterproof lavalier, if you will, very resistant to the elements. It's omnidirectional currently, and very miniature due to the MEMS technology. We're also using MEMS and other aspects. We're always experimenting, and I actually had lunch the other day with one of our veterans from the Mic Lab, and I got the chance to go out to Niles and kind of talking a little bit about all the stuff that they're working on and transducer wise, because obviously that's the first part of the solution before we make it wireless, of course. But yeah, that we're working on that, and there's so many other cool things I wish I could talk openly about in development right now. But we're always pushing the envelope in new ways and making existing technology work in new ways as well. So,
let's jump back to something that's a little more basic, perhaps. Ben, let's just say that you're talking to somebody who's building a new studio or a new station. How do they decide? Well, when I first posted the fact that you were going to be here today, the very first question I got back was, when are they going to bring back the SM5B?
Really? You want the SM5B back?
That was the very first question that came back for me. And I know the answer to that because we had Michael Peterson deliver a very nice discussion last year. But if you're going to be building a studio or changing microphones, talk to us a little bit about what is the optimal way, in your estimation, to put in a broadcast control room, or what considerations would you recommend that we take in as we make that choice?
That's a great question. I mean, I think the topic on everybody's mind, and you brought it up earlier, is making things future-proof, kind of with this changing frequency landscape. People are asking, if I buy stuff now, is it going to be usable in the future? And while I don't have a crystal ball, I mean, I can say that it's highly unlikely that they're going to take more spectrum away, just based on the fact they would have to relocate everyone once again to a new frequency range. So I think for going forward, the next few years, we're going to be pretty static about where we're at. But that still doesn't make it a walk in the park, especially in major metro areas where we have to, obviously be not on an active television station that's broadcasting for frequencies wise, but also pay respects to the public safety channels that are going to take up some things where even if it's clean, you can't use it because it would be illegal. So, I mean, normally when we're talking about that type of, deploying a broadcast facility, it's like the usual questions, like, where are you using it? What are your expectations? How many studios do you have? How close are they to each other? How many microphones do you want active? What's your budget? What kind of control would you like to see? What's your workflow like? And, a lot of these can be answered by our upwards here, or even our ULXD system, which has been out for a while, or the Axiom Digital, which has really been kind of the go-to move for most broadcast facilities, because with Axiom Digital, the way I like to explain it, it's like the choose your own adventure books, where you can make it into a very basic system, or if you want to go deep down the rabbit hole and employ all of the kind of bells and whistles, if you will, you can do that as well. Just because you have Axiom Digital doesn't mean you need to drop a ton on all the other stuff if you don't think you need it, or maybe you want to grow into it or expand. So depending on the facility, those are the main kind of questions I would be asking. I would encourage people to check out the advanced technologies that we do offer with that are just not found anywhere else. and I can go into these in detail, but like there's 3 different things that make Axiom Digital, awesome, besides the fact it's digital and has great spectral efficiency, and you can stack frequencies without intermod problems and all that stuff. All that aside, there are 3 different things. The first one's called Quad Versity, where we can use 4 antennas instead of 2 and assign a radio to each antenna. Not just using 2 sets of antennas and muxing them together, but actually dedicate a specific radio for each antenna for ultimate reliability. And some of the broadcast facilities deploy that at the highest level. We're seeing that like at the Super Bowl and other high profile events. The second one has been around for a while. You're probably familiar with frequency diversity. This is a fancy term for double packing somebody and then dedicating a radio to each channel. And instead of the user behind the console making the decision of which fader to push up or unmute if something happens, the receiver is smart enough to know that, oh, this channel is better than this channel, and it switches seamlessly. We even have a handheld that has a built-in 2 transmitters built into the handle, which broadcasts the same audio on 2 different carriers and on 2 different frequencies, which can be remote controlled. And what it's doing is very cool. Like it's not just switching between one or the other, but it's combining the ones and zeros together. It's taking snapshots from both frequencies, overlaying them on top of each other and making the decision of what was a 1, what was a 0 for best reliability. And then lastly, the third thing, if you want to get into it, is the what everybody calls frequency hopping. We call it interference detection and avoidance here at Shure. Basically, you set a preset list of backup frequencies in a frequency server, and then if you get in trouble, somebody steps on your frequency, the microphone and receiver can automatically switch to a new frequency without anybody being the wiser. The dropout time is like 100 milliseconds, and people ask, well, isn't that a lot? I'm like, well, it's probably a lot less than if you took a hit on air and had to manually do it and get the pack back from the talent and whatnot. So we're excited to have those 3 features, and you can stack all 3 of those on top of each other for a ridiculously over-engineered system if you wish. In the words of our Tim Veer, which has been with Shure, 34 or 36 years, he's just retiring this week. His quote is, if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. So we have it available, and if you want to use it or you want to go there or learn more about it, we'd be glad to talk about it. So
when we talk digital, that raises the question of latency.
Great, yeah, absolutely.
How much latency are in this system that you're talking about?
That's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. The latency in the Axiom Digital system is the best in the biz. It's about 1.9 milliseconds, about under 2 milliseconds total round trip. That's in the standard mode that we normally would use. If you're using our high density mode, where you can put up to 47 frequencies in one TV station, 6 meg wide, then it's 2.9. So that's still very palatable. And if you combine that with your DSP, your console, and all the throughput and the latency is negligible, and that's one of the reasons that people really love the system.
Well, that's usable. That's not going to cause an on-air talent to get freaked out.
Yeah.
We're talking about sound traveling about a foot or 2 for that latency.
That's a good way to think about it. Exactly, about 2 feet away from the source, and that's extremely workable. I think it's more of kind of a challenge when we're talking of live performers on stage who have inner monitors, and then they have a console and plugins and all that stuff. And we like to teach, like, anything over 5 starts to get a little, for some, starts to get a little weird, and you start speeding up or slowing down your speech and whatnot. But yeah, it's good.
Okay, I'm going to ask. Drop back to the 7,
yes,
if you would.
Yes.
The SM7 or the MV7. We can talk about either one.
Sure.
These seem to be the current top of the line for studio DJ use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we've seen a massive explosion of sales in the SM7B, just from the pandemic alone, and people want to set up their own podcast, or people are like, I want to look the business, so I want that Joe Rogan microphone or whatever. That's the deal, and we've been making them the same way for quite a while, and we continue to do the same thing. It's just the demand has been really, really good. And then the MV7 is just kind of styled after it, a little different, of course, but just makes it a little bit easier to use for those who don't know what an interface is, or maybe don't, like me, I don't want to have the hassle. I have interfaces all over. I just cleaned everything out of here. It started with the pandemic, I got the video switcher and all this stuff, and the boom microphone and the arm and all that stuff. I went through all of that, and then lately I just been kind of cleaning house, let me go back to basics, and then I'll add things as I deem necessary. So as you're hearing it right now, I sound pretty intelligible, and I'm about an arm's length away from the MV7 plugged directly into my MacBook. No problem.
Well, that's good. That's good. A question was risen about the foam, replacement foam for the 5 or the 7, which would also, bring us to the question. I happened yesterday to be watching the Live Aid from '85 again.
Oh, awesome.
For some reason.
The Zeppelin reunion performance. That's awesome.
And I was watching Freddie Mercury. And Freddie Mercury was, of course, this close or closer to his microphone. How do you prevent, in the 58 or thereabouts, how do you prevent wind blast?
Well, there's different designs as far as the internal, pop filter. Of course, we have the foam external pop filter, and then and the 58, SM7, all of our microphones, there's some sort of internal mechanism to make that happen, whether it's some sort of basket or mesh. We deploy both type of use cases to help those plosives, of course, and we always have. Those are some of the things that are integral to the, if you've ever taken the 58, of course, you've seen the actual capsule built into the capsule itself, as well as the sphere and the foam that goes on the inside of the sphere to help do that. As you mentioned, yeah, they're all replaceable. 58 baskets are a dime a dozen. You can get those pretty inexpensively. The foam here on the SM7 is MV7 is removable, and then we offer the 2 different types on the SM7B, where you can have the svelte foam or like the bulbous kind of foam, extra pop protection if you want.
But 5s are not in your bailiwick anymore.
Yeah, that's right. The SM5 I believe is not available anymore, but it's interesting to hear you bring that up, and I'm sure Michael Pedersen and the whole team would love to hear about it, because we want us to bring back a vintage mic. Let us know. We'll talk to the people, and if there's enough interest, who knows,
Well, that
Hey,
was
Ben.
Yes.
Since you're on this topic, and considering we're in the middle of a pandemic, what is the Shure recommended way of disinfecting microphones?
Wow, I'm glad you brought that up. This really was is still a hot topic now, but it was, of course, extremely hot topic when we were first going into this about 1.5 years ago. There is a whole bunch of actual official methods that are on our website. I'll try to find the link here and put it in the chat of what we recommend to do so. Basically, it's kind of, a lot of it's common sense. A lot of it, is kind of like, don't use, harsh chemicals or ozone producing things to clean them or immerse them fully in water. But we've been updating this link here during the whole pandemic. It's been through, I think, 2 or 3 revisions now. And it's kind of of course, everybody's asking the same thing. So I found the link here. I'll put it in the chat. And this is the official Shure way of cleaning microphones, and it does vary from wired microphones to SM58, Beta 58, all the way to lavalier microphones, how to sanitize and clean wireless body pack transmitters and receivers, and the micro body packs transmitter and the twin flex microphone portfolio, which are a little bit more water resistant. Conference products now, the Motive, which the MV5 I'm talking on right now, and so forth. To be honest, a lot of it is common sense, but things like mild soapy water, of course, Clorox wipes, isopropyl alcohol. But there are some caveats, some isopropyl alcohol can damage the windscreens if they're made with a certain dye and things of that nature. So depending on which product you're mainly interested in cleaning, refer to this document, and this would be the official way that we've done. And of course, this isn't just taken with a grain of salt and it's thrown against the wall. We have a product validation laboratory at Shure where we torture test everything. And if you ever get the tour or get a chance to, it's where we take 58s and drop them over and over until they break. And we have halt chambers where we blast things with salt air and high extreme temperatures and all that stuff. All of our products go through these type of testing, which heralds back to the war days when we were making throat microphones for fighter pilots and such, and they all had to be mil spec. And Mr. Shure wanted to keep that tradition up with our microphones to make them rugged and robust. And they may not be mil spec applications, but we treat them as such and test them as such. So it's part of the legacy.
I just got a press release yesterday from Kensington about the wipe down approval seal for products that pass the MIL standard 810H method 504.3. It's real military way of doing things, but
Yep.
On the halt test, the last company I worked for did that on all the products just so they would survive shipping through UPS and FedEx.
Oh my goodness, yes. I ship quite a bit of gear, and I've seen quite a bit of catastrophe based on UPS and FedEx. Exactly. Yeah. Things are going to get dropped. Things are going to get thrown. Extreme temperatures, all of the above. I ship things in cardboard boxes and, vibration resistant road cases, and the majority of it survives, I would say. Apparent aside from the improperly packing and a few other.
Yeah, I read I think it was a FedEx document on temperature extremes, and if it's near the side of the plane and so on. So they really get into it.
That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, a lot of those heating and cooling and shrinking, those are really tough on electronic components and solder joints, especially on circuit boards, printed circuit assemblies. So yeah, it's something that we keep doing. And whenever I'm in Niles, I try to go by there and see what's going on, just to talk to them. And I mean, we're still trying to break a 58. We do it every day. They do it how many times until it breaks or whatnot. I'm not sure if you've ever been to, I think we might have brought it to AES or NAB for sure, but we have a flex bot. We have these machines that we've designed that flex cables until they break while passing audio. So we'll take a lavalier cable, we'll hang a weight of a certain value on the end of it, and then there'll be like a stepper motor, very, very powerful one, will go back and forth and do a cycle count while passing audio through, all automated, and then see how many times we can flex the cable until it breaks. We do this on headphones. We do it most recently on our twinplex lavalier, which is our high-end lavalier. And the cable that we've designed specifically for that twinplex lab is like, most of them go well over 100,000 cycles, which is very impressive. Most of the other cables we've tested go for like maybe 2,000 to 3,000 until they break. And the deal, you get the lab and the talent or whoever, the A2, winds it around and puts it back in the drawer and does it again every day. And that's what breaks. It's usually not the capsule unless it gets damaged or water damaged, but it's that lavalier cable. And we're excited about the twinplex cable. It's remarkable.
It reminds me of the old television ads.
We invite you to bring a video of the testing. We'd love to see all those microphones being shot out of cannons and things. But,
there's some but people throwing them off the roof at headquarters, and I'm trying to think. The apparatus is like on a mic stand, which was about 6 feet or 5 or 6 feet, and we just kind of bang and drop it, and then lift it back up and pass audio while we do it, and record scientifically the results of all this abuse. And as it shows, people, the ubiquitous joke of the 58's a hammer and all that stuff. That's where it all comes from.
Like the old television ads for Timex watches.
Takes a licking, keeps on ticking. That's right.
Getting back to my question about the sanitizing of the microphones, is there any way to clean the foam of a microphone and not have it damage or change the properties of the foam, or do you just have to keep changing the foam all the time?
Well, changing the foam is the best option if it's palatable. I mean, I think the 58 heads are $7 or $8 with the foam inside, and it's not that bad. But I believe on the link I put in the chat, on the foam section for the windscreen specifically says to use just like mild soapy water, and that is let it air dry completely before you put it back on, and that's the best way to ensure that you're not going to deteriorate it. Harsh chemicals like ozone generators and all that kind of stuff can hurt the foam. And I didn't know this until I read the document a few weeks ago about the isopropyl making the colors bleed in some of the windscreens, which are dyed a specific color and whatnot. So yeah, just check the document out. But I think for the most part for the foam, it's going to be mild soapy water is the
wouldn't the soap leave particles in the foam itself and therefore change the properties of the foam?
That's a good question. I think using, just like a off-the-shelf Dawn or some other soap like that is really negligible as far as changing the acoustic properties of the foam itself. I think you probably have more particles in the regular environment or just from the breath or the whatever's coming out of the talent's mouth. But yeah, we've tested it, and that's the official recommendation.
Harold, I think you were standing by for something.
I got it in there. That was the Timex watch thing. Oh, there was one other thing that did remind me. We had a problem with USB cables, And if people use cheap cables and plug them in and out a bunch of times, it destroys the connector on the equipment. So we finally had to start shipping good USB cables with our equipment. Even after like 200 insertions, it was mangling our connector. With the good ones, we got like 2,000.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, because you can go to the dollar store and get like a micro USB phone charging cable, which will work, but how long is that? And if it's out of spec, absolutely, it can hurt that connector after multiple insertions. That's
yeah, the plastic insulator would start to deteriorate, and then it damaged the contacts would fold up and just destroyed our stuff. So what's the can't remember the name of, there's a cheap supplier everybody buys this stuff from, and it just destroyed our equipment. So finally we had to start shipping cables with it. And this was the mini USB.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
The MX153, that's an ear set head-worn microphone, oftentimes used with lav transmitters.
Yes.
My wife has had some at church, and the people using them seem to destroy the darn things, usually up where the cable enters the ear set itself.
Yes.
Is there anything that Shure can do to make those more robust, or perhaps connectorize in some way that you can easily replace the cable?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, that product, is kind of what it is. I mean, we possibly could make improvements on it, although we do have some newer headsets which do exhibit the modularity that you're describing and have a better, kind of a connector and whatnot. But in that kind of, close to that tier of product, the Duraplex DH5 would be the kind of the go-to move for that type of headset. It is a dual ear hook design. One advantage of the Duraplex is that they're extremely water and sweat resistant. They're pretty practically dunkable in liquids.
Are they less expensive?
They're about the same, if not more. They're going to be a little bit more, I would say, than that tier. And then the step above that would be the TH53, which is the flagship, and that's using the TwinFlex capsule, which we didn't talk about yet, but it's kind of cool technology. It's got twin diaphragms in the capsule, which is a unique thing for lavaliers, and we've seen really great adoption with it on everything from David Byrne on Broadway to whatever, actually live performance and broadcast. So
that's cool. Bill Gelhaus had asked about on the I forget what it's called, but the panel mic with the multiple lobes, whether you could get separate outputs, or is it all mono?
Oh, great question. Yeah, so on all of them, the different lobes, or MXA in general, for example, the 910 has 8 lobes, and there's actually a 9th sum of the lobes you want to use. So yes, you can get ISO outputs of them on different Dante channels, and you can also get a kind of aggregate output, or however many lobes mixed together, or IntelliMix together in the case of the 910, who has a built-in DSP. So yes, it's very flexible. You want to treat each one separately? Absolutely. You want to have the IntelliMix and everything, mix it together for you and then treat it as a single mono? You can do that as well. There are actually some really cool things that people are doing with it. If you're using a automatic camera switching, for example, like if a lobe activates, it'll switch to that camera, and that sort of stuff. It can
that's cool. So it has sort of a tally function that can trigger things.
Yeah.
Is that a digital or an analog function?
That's well, it's a triggering as digital. It's all over the Ethernet with the TCP/IP UDP commands. It'll spit out what it's doing and what lobe it's actually got triggered, and you can use that to interpret it via another interface to do cool stuff. So it can be as much of a science project as you want, or it can be just a plug and play mono output of the number of lobes you desire.
That's cool. Are you aware of any vocal groups or choirs using this as a method of picking up multiple lobes for sections or anything like that?
Yeah, so there has been some use in that case. For capturing audio from a choir is always a challenge. Do you want hanging microphones or tap? Like we talked about the Rockettes and stuff earlier, but maybe you don't have tap microphones in each shoe like they do. There has been some interest in using that to kind of capture the essence of the tap performance on the stage in a low profile way without using something that sits on the floor like a boundary mic, which may be, you know, getting vibrated by the actual
Yeah.
kicks and things on the stage. So
Well,
yes.
my potential use for it, I'm working, doing a live stream thing with a local oratorio society that plans to do the Messiah.
Mhm.
And I'm just sitting here thinking, oh, that's a potentially interesting use for that.
Yeah, 710, maybe a couple of 2-footers, one on each side, or maybe just in the middle, and you can, you know, use a couple of lobes here, a couple of lobes there. Sure, yeah.
And how do you accomplish the steering of the lobes?
Good question. So there's a software platform that we have that allows to steer the lobes however you like. It's called Shure.
It's all, I'm sure it must be all solid state phasing and things going on. There's no mechanical business in there.
Exactly. It's all phasing and, you know, kind of like the mid-side technique or any of that stuff. We're using different lobes and different combinations and proportions to steer those lobes in that way. So
It's a directional antenna.
Yeah, a little servo motor. No, it's really cool. And if you'd like to check it out, the program is called Shure Designer, and it's free. You can download it, and you can even play around with a virtual set of lobes to see how it would look. Or like I kind of showed briefly, you can impose like a setting of your broadcast studio or facility, like a CAD drawing to scale, and then see where the lobes would cover and kind of get as much done as you want beforehand. Then when you go out to actually deploy it, you can push all that settings to the mic and tweak it by ear, which is the best way, of course. Usually a pair of headphones and listening to how it actually sounds is the best way.
Did you get that the business about the contempt decision on the MXA 910? Has that all been settled and out of the courts now?
I think so. I'm sorry, I don't follow it that closely because I'm more on the pro side, but I think it's pretty much finalized as far as I know. I haven't been following it that closely, to be honest.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe you covered this earlier, but anybody using this as a replacement for conventional studio mics in a conference table type setting? Or a morning zoo?
Yeah, a few broadcasters have been using it as a standalone, as well as a hybrid approach, where some are on lavs and some are on the microphone itself. It's becoming more popular recently with just being, hey, I don't want to have to touch the talent or be close to them and so forth.
Yeah.
You know,
well, you wouldn't have to necessarily clean the mic all the time either.
Exactly. In conference rooms and things, you know, somebody can just come and wipe the table down as they normally do, and they don't have to worry about sanitizing the mics or all that. So it's been a huge priority for that type of thing, for those type of decisions and applications. As people do return to the office, or we still do, you know, broadcasting and such.
The mic that you're using right now, you're fairly far from it. Is it doing some echo cancellation to deal with room acoustics?
Great question. So yeah, with a microphone, I think, to be honest, I think Zoom is doing most of the echo cancellation with its software echo cancellation. But yeah, I'm about 6'1", and I'm like an arm's length away from the mic itself. And my laptop is like closer to the mic than I am to it, and it's doing all the echo cancellation. I have speakers just coming right out of the laptop, and of course you don't hear any slapback, or I hope you don't hear any echo. So I got to give props to Zoom, I think, on that one. There was some DSP going in the mic as well, but largely when you plug it in, you get an audio interface. You get audio in and headphone out if you want to use the built-in headphone out to put a pair of cans on there.
The software for designing and steering the multi-array microphone or the Lobe mics, what platforms does that work on?
Great question. I believe the last I heard, it is PC only right now for the Shure Designer software.
Okay.
I think that's the way it goes. I'm not sure, though, maybe a Mac version. I'm a Mac user myself, so
yeah, I saw that.
I would like to see that in the future, but I think as of right now, it's PC.
Probably a ton of us would like it on an iPhone. Thank you.
Exactly. That'd be nice. The next generation of that. We do have some cool apps though for, you know, the wireless and the motive stuff. You can do some really advanced tweaking right from the app, which is neat.
Speaking of your software, I'll toss this name in that you haven't touched on, but maybe want to. Boxcaster.
Yes.
Is this something that you think is appropriate for broadcasters?
Yeah. In fact, I believe we are doing like a kind of little partnership, if I'm not mistaken, with the Boxcast crew. They do offer some hardware solutions, and I think the kind of cool portion of it is that they take care of the back end stuff. So you don't have to worry about the, the actual processing of the data or the hosting or the server and all that, the latency. They handle all of that. And if you have an issue, they're on top of it. So it's kind of we've seen some adoption with that for broadcasters as well as house of worship and live events of that nature, with good results. And while we don't own Voxcast, I believe that there was some sort of partnership involved with them, if I'm not mistaken.
And when you update the video, you have a new title for it. It's called the Steering of the Lobes.
The Steering of the Lobes, yes.
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 Hey, Ben, if I can ask an unrelated question.
Shoot, yeah.
Is Shure out of the phono business?
Yes. Sadly, that has ended. I believe right before the pandemic, I believe we discontinued all of our needles and our phono business, which we've been known for years. I think the last mainstay of it were DJs using, Serato or Tractor, any of those type of hybrid vinyl with a needle, and then, to a digitized computer control. Yeah, sadly, I believe it just, the overhead of keeping all of those specialized machines in order versus how many we're selling per year just gradually kept declining, and there was really no sign of it coming back. So sadly, yes, it is done. There's still some stock maybe out there, a few and far between from some dealers or eBay, etc. But we are not manufacturing any new phono needles or accessories. Into an era, I tell you.
Is Shure still making any ribbon microphones?
Yes, we do have a ribbon microphone. What is it? The 313? Is that correct? I think it is. That microphone, of course, we see popular studio applications, especially for vocals, and yeah, the 313 NE. Very popular for guitar miking a guitar cabinet. Of course, you get like a different texture, a little bit different than a dynamic, and that would be the go-to ribbon microphone that we offer at this time. It also has the Roswellite ribbon material. Michael Pedersen will tell you all about it, I'm sure, but it's a very durable ribbon material that holds up nice to the heat, humidity, and elements, and it's not going to get damaged like some fragile ribbons of yesteryear and whatnot. So it's kind of a workhorse ribbon mic. We offer for stage and studio, of course. Yeah.
Any other questions from the field for Ben? I really appreciate all this information that you're feeding us, and Shure microphones have been such a mainstay of so many stations over the years, and I know everyone that's got a 5 won't let go.
I'm glad to hear that, and definitely receive that info. I'll pass it right along. I'm just curious, what do you like about the 5 versus, say, the 7? What's the allure? The sound, the build quality?
I think a lot of people use the 5, which was designed as an overhead studio microphone, as a microphone that they could get, snuggle up close to. And the low end is a little more exaggerated than perhaps in the 7, a little warmer, some might say.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen places where the foam is just deteriorated so badly that the microphone is just sitting out there all by itself, and yet they still like the sound of it. And there are some folks, I think we have at least one person here with us today that's still using a 5, but I'm not certain.
David says near total absence of handling noise. The handling noise is very good on the 5, I think, or maybe I don't know if he's referring to the 313. But no, that's good. That's good information. Yeah,
you couldn't kill it.
Couldn't kill it.
Can't kill that mic.
Hey, it's like the 58, I guess. It's something we're known for and proud of. So thank you.
And Ben, around 5-6 years ago at one of the conventions, you were giving out an SM58 T-shirt. My wife and my daughter fight over that shirt all the time. You got to send me a new one.
Is that the one that's like I Heart SM58? Is that the one? Or yeah. Okay, I remember that one. Yep. I see if we got that. Maybe we have some new stuff or new swag coming up. Hopefully, yeah, it'd be good to see all of everybody at the next AES, hopefully, or NAB. We're all had our bags packed ready for this, and it got pushed back. But hopefully, it'll be soon. We get to see each other in person again. It'll be good.
Oh, I want to thank you. This was really interesting. And I have to tell you, the worst part about cleaning microphones is taking them away from the talent, because God only knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I've seen some pretty gross, gross ones, like caked in makeup and all kinds of stuff. And like, ew. Might just have to get a new basket for that, you know, at a certain point. You're absolutely right.
All right, well, looks like we have a lot of satisfied folks that have had their questions answered by what you have brought to the table. And again, Ben, we thank you very much. Want to invite you back again sometime for maybe a little more specific drill down on one thing or another, like a studio control room position or something.
Certainly. Yeah,
And-
I had a lot of fun. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was really, the time flew by. It's talking nerdy stuff about mics. That's right up my alley. So
Hey, Ben, a suggestion for next time, if for whenever you do it, I would really like to see a breakdown of the MV7 USB microphone and actually see how the thing works from the point of the USB all the way out. I think it would be really interesting.
I'd love to do that. Yeah, we can go through that. I'll do a screen. I can show you the software and how you can tweak it out and how that affects. We can do it live and show you how it affects the different modes and such. And yeah, I think that'd be great. What better platform to do it than on a web conference like you'd be using it in? Perfect.
Yeah, and thank you again for guys. I only invited Ben 2 days ago, so he really came through for us. So thank you again, Ben.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.